Good morning, everybody.
Hello, good morning.
So I'm François Mazella Di Bosco from Grant Thornton, Paris, in France.
And I'm Charles Troubard from Les Labs, Paris, France.
So welcome everybody to this second online session. So as you can see on the document that you have on your screen, it is the same document as we presented yesterday. There was few amendments, corrections, but very less corrections. So be sure that the content of this training is almost the same that yesterday, if you couldn't attend the training yesterday. So just a few words of introduction. First, we will present our companies. We are audit firms. So I'm representing Grant Thornton. Grant Thornton is the leader of the framework contract that we won with UIA Initiative regarding the first level controls. And in this contract, we built a consortium with Les Labs, represented today by Charles, who is the director of this company. So the purpose of today is to give you a training session regarding first level controls, and especially to put the emphasis on what is ex-ante controls and to prepare yourself to the ex-ante controls that we will carry out on the spot in few days or few months for some of you, sorry. So these ex-ante controls will occur, as you know, because I think you received all proposition of dates by emails from us. They will occur from May to beginning of July this year. And as you already asked some question about this, just we wanted to explain you that there is not a schedule predefined and already settled regarding the schedule, the day schedule on our intervention. So basically, of course, we will intervene on the spot, and we will have an opening meeting with all the partners to introduce ourselves and to acknowledge your organization, your professionals, your managers, and your documentation. But then there is not an order already fixed about who we will meet first and who we will meet second and who we will meet third. So it depends how we feel, how we understand your organization on the spot. Just please, as far as possible for you, be available during the days we are on the spot to carry out these ex-ante controls. We will come back again to the organization later in this presentation. As you can see, thanks to the WebEx system that the UIA Initiative put at our disposal to give you this training, you have a space dedicated to question and answers on this WebEx platform. So please feel free to send us your questions. So we wish that we will receive them correctly. Yesterday we received them a little late, but at last we succeed to receive the questions. So do not hesitate to send questions to us. So there is this option today, this morning. Please send your question. Just if you send a question, please refer to your city, your project, and the part of the training session that refers to your question, in order that we can then understand very efficiently why you ask this question and to which part it refers to. Another option, if you have questions before we are going on the spot, you can use the email box that we created, and that is dedicated also to the questions on ex-ante controls. So you received all email from us with this FAQ mail address. So please be free also to send us email. This mailbox is open till next Friday. At last, of course, the last option, if you have questions, is to ask us questions when we are on the spot, and especially when we are opening the ex-ante controls in the opening meeting the first day. So we will have a 2 hours opening meeting in which you can ask to us again your question, and we will try to answer directly, if possible. So you have many possibilities to send us questions. So do not hesitate. To send us questions. At last, to finish this short introduction, as you can see, there is a camera right now, but the camera will be closed when we will start concretely the presentation. There is already the training document and the record of yesterday on YouTube. Maybe this one record will be also put on YouTube. We will see with the UIA Initiative. So please also be free to go back on YouTube when you want to watch the first webinar or this one if we will put it again. Here we are. We propose you to start the training session of today regarding first level controls and especially ex-ante controls preparation. So, as I said, we propose to start the session. So, basically, for this first level control training session and focus on ex-ante controls, there will be two main parts in this training session. The first part will focus on the project life cycle of course, your projects, and how the first level controls interferes and how they are involved, these controls, in the project life cycle. Always in the first part, we will talk about ex-ante controls and what is the specificities of ex-ante controls regarding your project and regarding the organization of first level controls. In the second part, we will talk about eligibility expenditures, and we will detail all the budget lines that you know, explaining to you what are the main principles, the main audit tray you need to prepare, and what are the risks if this audit tray and documentation is not sufficient. At last, we will come back to the UIA Initiative main expectations regarding these ex-ante controls and how this UIA Initiative wish you manage efficiently your project. Last time will be, of course, if we have time and as far as possible, we will try to sort out and to filter your questions during the session. And at the end of the training session, we will answer to some of them directly on the WebEx platform. Here is the agenda of this morning. First part, what is the project life cycle of UIA projects and how the first level controls are will be carried out within your project life cycle. As you know, there is an initiation phase based on your preparation and on the selection of your projects by the UIA Initiative. During these two first steps and phase, you are in the initiation of your project. This initiation phase is strategic for you, like for us, as first level controllers, because it is the phase where you can build your financial, your project management system and your risk assessment system. So ex-ante controls will focus on what you did on this initiation phase. Of course, there is a third phase, the implementation phase, that must be based on what you built during your initiation phase. Some of you have already started the implementation phase, so we are in the middle between the phase 2 and phase 3. So the ex-ante controls intervene between these two phases. last phase, as you know, the closure and knowledge transfer. So there are the four main phases of the project life cycle in the UIA projects, and the ex-ante controls are focusing on this first initiation period. During this initiation period, logically and normally, every main new partner authority has signed subsidy contract with UIA Initiative, your interested entity, and also every main new partner authority has already signed partnership agreements with your local project partners. We know that some of the cities that we will audit during these ex-ante controls are still waiting the signature of their subsidy contract or partnership agreements with project partners. So we know also that it should be done very fastly in very few days. So we are in the middle, but it's not an inconvenience for us. It's not a problem for us to intervene on the spot and to carry out these ex-ante controls. So ex-ante controls must occur. It is necessary and compulsory for us to carry out these ex-ante controls within 90 days after the signature of your subsidy contract with the UIA permanent secretary. That's why we have this schedule, as you know, a very tight planning regarding the ex-ante controls, and that's why these ex-ante controls on the 17 projects that we need to audit are positioned in May, June, and beginning of July. Ex-ante controls focus on verification of the project and the risk management system. It is important that you are aware of it. We will not go through very detailed controls of expenditures, invoices, and so on. It will be for sure what we will do in the financial audit. It means the next audits we will do when you will have a certain amount of expenditures already incurred. But of course, we can sometimes ask you specific and detailed documents during the ex-ante control if we think that there is a risk. But the first step for us is to verify that you have the good tools, you have the good organization, you have the good procedures, and you define a good management system regarding the project in itself and the risk that can occur when you will spend the money and when you will invoice expenditures, you will incur expenditures. So it is a macro and global verification at first, and later when we will come back again on your project to carry out financial audits, we will go further in detail on every pieces of documentation that you need to give to the controller. So remind this. Ex-ante controls focus on the verification of your project and how you manage the risk, how you define a system of risk management. It is available, of course, at the MUA level, because the MUA is responsible to the global management of the project, but it is also available, this verification, to the PPs that we will also audit during these ex-ante controls. As I said, locally, the implementation phase may have already started, and it's not a problem. And at last, within these ex-ante controls, we will write down some findings at the end of our interventions through the reports that we will directly give and communicate to the UIA Permanent Secretariat. And depending on these findings, the initiative, the UIA initiative, thanks to these first ex-ante controls, will enable or not the payment of the 50% amount advance. Since I'm talking about this 50% advance payment, let's go back on the rules, the principal rules of ERDF payment procedures. As you know, your project, UIA Initiative projects, are financed, are funded by, of course, European Commission, but specifically by the ERDF fund. So this ERDF fund has a payment procedure that we can summarize in 4 main steps. And the UIA Initiative payment scheme is also, of course, based on these principles, on the principles of ERDF advance payment and reimbursements of costs. So 4 main steps. The first one, as you know, is strategic for you because it will help you to implement your project. So to receive this 50% advance payment from ERDF funds, this first advance payment, as I said, you will be asked to have signed your subsidy contract. So for some of the cities it's still pending, but it will be for sure logically realized and finalized within a few days. And the second conditions, it is, like I said you just before, the results of our findings, thanks to the ex-ante control on the spot. So our findings are important because they will enable or not the payment of this first advance, 50% advance. What is important that you know is that either myself, Grant Thornton, or my colleague from LILABS, we don't take the decision. The decision, the legal decision to enable or not the payment belongs to the UIA Initiative. Of course, the UIA Initiative and Permanent Secretariat will be based, decision will be based on our findings, but we will not take this decision. It is your interested entities that only can take this decision. So this is where we are, this first step. Second step, very, very fastly, as you know, there is a second advance payment of 30% in order that at the end of this second step, you will receive an advance cumulative of 80% of ERDF fund. And this second advance payment will occur, will happen when you will have reported expenditures that reach at least 70% of your budget. So it can be very fast, depending the project. There is not a fixed date. It will depend really how the project implementation phase goes on. So when you will have reached this threshold of 70% of your expenditures, then we will again carry out an audit. It will be not an ex-ante audit for sure, because the ex-ante audit is dedicated to the first advance payment, but it will be a regular financial audit. We will come back later to this. Third step, the third ERDF payment. So basically it will be an amount between 10 and 20% of the rest that you will wait from the ERDF funds, depending on your budget. And this third payment will be done upon approval of your last progress report, or so your last financial report. So, and here again, for this approval, the UIA Initiative will base its decision on a new financial audit. Basically, yes, a new financial audit that we will carry out regarding your project. At last, the fourth step and the last step, it is the retainment of a lump sum from the beginning of your project. So this lump sum is just to be sure that you will give the final documents to the UIA Initiative in order to closure and to close and to transfer your knowledge regarding your project. So it is just to be sure that you go till the end of your duties, I would say, regarding your project. And this lump sum fixed in your contract at the beginning will be accepted and will be paid to you at the end. So regarding these 4 main steps, as I said there is basically at least 3 main intervention from us, because we are your first level controller. So first intervention of first level controller is happening during the first step. So it is the ex-ante control. The second intervention of first level controller will happen during the second step, as I said when you will reach 70% of expenditures, and this intervention is not an ex-ante control, it will be a classic financial audit. And there is a third intervention of first level controller during the third step, when you will issue and prepare your last financial report. Here, as you can see, there is the first level control audits and payments grant process. So that is basically the same approach that I explained you just before. Just you can see all the steps of a first level controller from the beginning to the end of your project life cycle. So the first step, signature of subsidy contract. As I said and as you of course already know, it should already have happened during the months of March or April. Then once you have the subsidy contracts signed, or even if it is still pending, we are carrying out the audit ex-ante on the spot. And this audit or control, ex-ante control, must be done up to 90 days after the subsidy contract signature. So, as you can see in this timeline, it will start in May, basically next week, and it will finish for us on the spot at the beginning of July, and for the reports to be validated by a UIA initiative, let's say during the summer of this year, so that you can have your payments approval or non-approval very fastly this summer, or at least in August or September. That is a provisional time. So you will have this payment of 50% if the findings of ex-ante controls are giving approval. Then the next step, when you will already have advanced so far in your implementation phase. So when you will have reached 70% of expenses during this implementation phase, we will carry out a financial audit, so the second intervention, that can be either on the spot, it means at your location, or desk-based, it's an administrative financial audit, it means we will only focus on documentation and we will not intervene on the spot. But basically there are the same financial audits, and this one will be carried out when you will reach this 70% amount of expenses. Therefore, again, if our findings approve or non-approve the payment, you will receive the advance of ERDF funds of 30%. Then we arrive to the end of your project and your last financial report, and we will carry out the last financial audit. It is the last intervention, normally, of the first level controller, in order that you receive the last down payment, and that can be accepted, the lump sum retainment payment. So as you can see in this Gantt, of course, eligible costs are starting from the very beginning of your preparation and initiation phase, and your project, of course, if we integrate this initiation phase, is also starting much more early than our ex-ante control. So here is the Gantt process. Of course, it can be flexible and can depend the project life of every project, but it should be very close to this Gantt process. Still in this first part, that is dedicated to explain you the project life cycle, what is the first level controls and what is the specificity of ex-ante controls. Let's focus on first level controls and ex-ante controls. As you maybe already know, first level controls are at the base of a general pyramid structure of checks that starts with these first level controls. So Grant Thornton Labs are your first level controller, but if you look at the pyramid structure, we are only at the beginning of the controls you may have during all your project life. Because we are first level controllers, but there will be a second level controllers that will also do some controls, but not the same way like we will do. Then, after this second level controls, if there are some findings and risks observed and problematics really strong observed, you can also have a control from your certifying authority and interested entity. It means UIA Initiative, of course, and the Région Hauts-de-France in France that manage this UIA Initiative. And at last, I wish for you, you will have never this possibility, but it can happen that the European Commission through OLAF, so the Fraud Repression Directorate, can also intervene in a fourth stage if there are big issues regarding your project and if they need to control specific things, especially fraud. So first level control is really at the base of this pyramid. First level controls are responsible for ensuring that all the expenditures you will declare during the project life and the expenditures declared by all project partners comply with the EU, the initiative, the national, and also the entity of project partners, that they are comply with their rules, and then that they are therefore eligible, legal, and rational. We will come back later to all this definition when we will go through the eligibility of expenditures principles, so that you can understand very precisely what we mean by eligible, legal, and rational. But first level control is dedicated to this objective. First level controls are managed by the consortium, as I said, Grant Thornton Labs. So they are centralized and externalized to us. Of course, we report every time to the UIA Initiative, but they are centralized and externalized to our consortium. The specificity of ex-ante controls is that for almost all of the cities and projects, it means I and Charles, will intervene ourselves directly to your cities, into your cities and projects. We will not involve local teams. There are few exceptions in some countries because of the amount of work that we need to do in a short delay. But basically, almost of the projects will be audited by I and by Charles. So there is also in this ex-ante controls a centralization and yes, a real centralization and supervision from both of us. It was important, and we agree with the UIA Initiative about this centralization for ex-ante audits, because we need, at this step, to have really an homogeneous approach of this first contact with you. And we need to have the same appreciation, the same methodology everywhere in Europe where we will go on the spot. So these ex-ante controls are really important for us to have the first feelings, the first feedbacks, the first appreciation, the first evaluation of your management and risk system. So we decided to centralize at the maximum these ex-ante controls to Grant Thornton and UIA Labs from France. Later on, when we will carry out the second and third controls, the financial audits, this time it will be necessary for us, and it will be very relevant, we think, to involve our local teams regarding the work that needs to be done by controlling all your documentation in a very detailed way. So as I said, your controls will be performed at least 3 times during your project lifetime. And very briefly, first level control shall detect risk of systemic errors and give you advice to correct them. We will of course pay attention to your requests, to your questions, and we will try to give you the good orientations, the good directions, and the best practice to correct your errors if you have some. But the main objective of first level control is really to identify if there are risks of systemic errors in your management, in your accounting, in all the organization and management of your project. In the main process, I would say, that allows you to manage well your project. This first level control should guarantee that every beneficiary, MUA has local partners, they have a sound financial management and control system. So this financial management and control system needs to be strong. It is what means sound. It needs to be strong, it needs to be appropriate, it needs to be well designed. So we will come later about what we expect from you regarding this financial management and control system, but basically that all your tools, your IT systems, your of course accounting organization permit us to identify efficiently and clearly the expenditures you incur regarding your project, and that all the data, all the documentation is of course available, guaranteed to us that they are true, they are not falsified, and that all the information is sound, is from good composition. So for us, it means this, a sound financial management and control system. It means you have procedures, you have tools, and you have designed a good process to manage your accounting, your human resources, your planning, your relation with local partners, and so on. So it's an overall appreciation of your management system and of your anticipation of main risk that can happen in your project. First level controls, secondly, shall guarantee that the declared expenditures relates to the activities carried out, of course, and these activities should be already stipulated in the last approved version of your application form. So it participates of a sound financial management and control system if your expenditures relate exactly to the activity that was planned in the application form. It is also part of this sound organization and strong financial and control system. At last, the main guarantee you need give to us when we will intervene in the ex-ante controls and later on in the financial audits is that the expenditure, we will come back later very often to this principle, but it is very important that the expenditure you will or you have already incurred is compliant with the relevant regulation and the strictest regulation. We will come back later on this. It can be European regulation, UIA Initiative regulation, your national regulation, or even your entity regulation if you have specific rules. Of course, if the rules you apply and if the rules you respect are the ones from your entity, these rules must be compliant with the European and Initiative guidelines. So every time it will be the strictest rules that exist that must be applied by you during this procurement or expenditure phase. But there are many levels of rules, and every time you need to apply the strictest one. So basically, we thought that it can be important for you to have a good definition of what is a control, because a first level controller is carrying out controls, and we will carry out ex-ante controls. So what is a control? It is any measure taken by us as first level controller, but also by you, of course, before we intervene on the spot to check. It is any measure taken to provide reasonable assurance regarding many topics. Reasonable assurance means that, of course, we will not be able to prove that there is no risk. There is no zero risk in any project and in any audit intervention. But we must, as external auditors, have a reasonable assurance that you put all your efforts to prevent, to anticipate, and to mitigate the risk that can happen in your project. So it is important for us to check that you have a good apprehension of what are the risks of your project, and that and it is very important for us that we check that you defined a control system and a sound management of your project to mitigate the possible risk that can happen. Thanks to these controls, thanks to these systems, thanks to these procedures and process and tools that you will define and implement, the risk can be mitigated, and then we can, after our controls, provide reasonable assurance that you are compliant with regularity of your operations, effectiveness, efficiency of operations, reliability of your reporting, safeguarding your assets and information, prevent, detect, and correct fraud or irregularities and follow them, and that you have, as I said, globally, a good management of the risk regarding legality, regularity of your transactions, taking account, of course, all the complexity of your projects, because you are multi-annual, you are multi-partners. So all these dimensions of regularity, efficiency, legality, prevention of risk of fraud, and so on, should be already integrated by you, and thanks to this good apprehension and good integration of all this complexity and all this risk, you should already have defined a good system, a good organization, and good process to manage your project and your relations between you, MUA, and partners. So we will, of course, intervene on the spot to control, and we will carry out various checks. I'm sure you have already a question regarding these checks. We can't give you beforehand the checklist that we will carry out on the spot, that with which we will go through on the spot, because our work as a controller, external auditor, I would say, it is also to provoke a surprise. Of course, it will not be a full surprise for you, because you have these training sessions, you have already communication regarding first level controls, but we can't give you our checklist it would be not efficient and not relevant for the control if you already knows what we will check, of course. In these training sessions and in the information we give you, we will of course focus on the main areas, the main topics that we will check, and we will go through the principles of eligibility of your expenditures so that you can already have a good vision on what we will focus on when we are on the spot in these ex-ante controls and on who we will need to meet during these ex-ante controls. If we should remember 3 points, maybe the first one is that ex-ante controls take place during the initiation phase, as I said and in any case, it should be prior to the payment of the 50% advance from ERDF. It is, in this way, it is an obligatory step for all MUAs and partners. Just you should know that even if it is an obligatory step for MUAs and partners, the UIA Initiative decided to make a sample of the local partners that will be audited in the ex-ante controls. So we will not audit all the local partners in every project. We will audit in some projects, some partners. So it depends the specificity of your project, it depends the complexity, maybe also the first difficulties that you may have in the initiation phase or in the beginning of implementation phase. But in almost all the projects, we will every time control, of course, the MUA, as the MUA is responsible for the project, and some of local partners, but not all local partners. So the purpose of these ex-ante controls is to ensure for you a quick and efficient start of the project. If our findings are good and positive for you, it will permit you to get this first payment of 50% amount, and so to facilitate and to ease the start of your project. But it is not only a question of money, even if it's, I know, very important for you. It is also a question of methodology, of organization, and of process. If we find during these ex-ante controls that you didn't define a good organization, you didn't define reporting process, you didn't define relation process with your partners, you have not a specific accounting to identify the expenditures of the project and so on, then it will not be it will not help you to ensure also a quick and efficient start of the project, and it will not help you to have a security in the management of the project. So EAC controls aim at ensuring, of course, the payment of the money you are expecting for, but most of all, before this, we want to be sure that you have all the tools and all the organization and management system that will permit you later to have a good implementation and to avoid main risk. Second point that I want to focus on is that ex-ante controls will especially check the public procurement policy that you carry out at the MUA or at the PP level. So we will come back later on this focus, but it is a very important point and area of check for the ex-ante controls, the public procurement. At last, we shouldn't forget that our controls during these ex-ante controls will also make a physical check of the planned investment locations and resources that you have in your project. It means that in some projects there is already planned huge investments regarding equipment or regarding constructions, and so it will be important for us to check how you defined and how you started to implement these investments, and what are the locations and resources dedicated to these investments. it was important for us when we defined the methodology of ex-ante controls with the UIA Initiative. And it is always important for an auditor to align in the most relevant way our controls on the strategical objectives of the entity and of the projects. So, as you know, there are 5 main objectives and 5 main dimensions in your projects because they were selected for these reasons. First, your projects needs to be innovative. So we were wondering if this aspect, the innovation aspect of your project, will impact strongly or not our controls. We think that this aspect will not impact strongly our controls, the content of our controls, even if, of course, in our understanding and our knowledge of your project, we will of course check that they are really innovative, but there should be very less risk regarding this kind of question. The second dimension is the participation. Your project should be participative, and they have been selected for this reason. Here, yes, our ex-ante controls will be impacted in their content by this dimension. Why? I will give you 2 examples. What means participative regarding your project? It means that you must involve the key stakeholders, so that will bring you expertise and knowledge to your project, both during the design and initiation phase and the implementation phase of your project. So as I said you just before, we will check that regarding this involvement, this expectation on the participative dimension of your project, we will check that you defined effective mechanisms, effective process, effective organizations within your project team of consultation, coordination, and co-design. So of course, this aspect can be relevant in your work package definition and implementation, in how you monitor your project and you share management tools with your partners, and of course through meetings you may have, and so on. So I think you understand very well our controls can be impacted by this dimension and this priority of UIA projects. Quality. Your project must be of good quality, so it will here also impact our ex-ante controls. We want to have assurance that you define realistic ambitions, coherent activities, and effective management regarding these ambitions. And every time regarding these ambitions, activities, and management, we will check if your budget is proportionate with your ambitions, activities, and so on, of course, expenditures. So there is this proportionality, this coherence of between your budget, and your project, that will be all along our controls, and even in our ex-ante controls, it will be checked. In order to have a good quality of project, we will check also that you defined a logically interlinked work plan with your partners, and within your work plan between all the dimensions of your work plan, that you defined a coherent and proportionate budget, as I said as well as effective management arrangements that will make really things happen with your partners, with main stakeholders, with UIA permanent secretariat, and so on. We check that all the management process and organization is clear and well defined by you in order that the things can happen efficiently. So, few examples. I talked already about the financial management system. Of course, I talked already about internal control and risk management system. It will make things happen efficiently and with security. And we will need also, of course, regarding the accounting system, a detailed account in time of how the project will go about accomplishing its deliverables and outputs. So we will need to every time to check the coherence between your financial accounting expenditures and your project planning, I would say, if it is coherent or not, and if it is clearly detailed in your tools and in your agendas. Your project also must be measurable. So here it can and it will impact our controls on the spot during the ex-ante controls. What does it mean? Measurable for us as first level controllers. It means that we will check that if you defined clear evaluation and measure system regarding actions, regarding targets you want to follow, regarding indicators you want to measure. So your results, your coming results, or your already outputs, if you started the implementations, must be measured and quantified by this evaluation system, a good description of actions and targets you follow and indicators. At last, your project must be transferable. And here we think that it will not impact strongly our ex-ante controls content, even if, like for the innovation, we will of course check that you already thought and design transfer options, transfer models for your project. As we will carry out ex-ante controls, of course, we will refer to standards. And these standards, as I said for the procurement, can be European, UIA Initiative, national, or your entity regulation. But more generally speaking, our controls checklist, our control standards will be based on the EU ERDF regulation. So for your projects, it's very close to the Interreg regulation. So it will be very close in our controls. What we can do in financial audit for Interreg, it will be very close for your project. Even if here in ex-ante controls, it's quite I would say original. Not every project have ex-ante controls, but in your project there is this step of ex-ante controls. But we will be based on EU ERDF regulation. We will be based also. It's very important for us, and you have good guidelines from UIA. So we will be based on UIA Initiative regulation. So there is a guidance. There is a delegation agreement between EC and UIA, and there are all the call of projects. The first one for you, so that we can name terms of reference for us. It is what UIA expect actually from you. And at last, of course, there are the local national regulations. To summarize, ex-ante controls main objective is to assess your management, and especially your financial and budget management. So in this financial, budgetary and accounting management, we will in particularly focus on several points. We want to ensure that your operations comply with the UIA Initiative selection and funding criteria, as I said to you before, in the area of sustainable urban development. We will verify that co-finance products and services are delivered, and that your expenditure declared has actually been really incurred, and that they comply with the EC and national rules. We will ensure that there is a system for recording and storing in a computerized form your accounting reports for each operation. So it is a point very strategic also. You really need to have a strong and well-designed accounting system in a computerized form, so that when we will do the financial audits, we can check your expenditures and we can directly find the audit trail in order to check every expenditure for each operation. So please be aware of this accounting system expectations. The ex-ante control main objective is to identify this system that you define. We will not go through it. We will not check every expenditures right now because it will be the topic and the objective of the financial audits. But in this ex-ante controls, we will at least check that you have this computerized form for your accounting reports. With ex-ante controls, we will ensure that all beneficiaries, MUA, and local partners are involved in the implementation of operations, and that they have a separate accounting system for all these operations, or at least a code, specific code for every beneficiaries that permit us to identify who did the expenditure. We will verify that beneficiaries have been setting up some procedures regarding audit trail. So we will come back later on what is audit trail exactly for every budget lines and every expenditure. That you have been setting up already compliance procedure regarding compliance of expenditures, so public procurement and so on, and that you have procedures on reporting for your project implementation. So everything should be at the maximum formalized, documented and written down on procedures. Ex-ante controls are focusing on these procedures. So everything that is informal, everything that is not well written down can be always a tray for us to go further and to identify risk. If you have procedures written, of course we will check that they are good, that you do apply with these procedures, but it is already a good point for us because we can see that you designed some procedures and some systems. Of course we will not, of course we will verify legality and legality of expenditures declared, even if we will not go through very detailed controls, but we can check, depending the case, if we identify risk of, if we think there are really weaknesses in your procedures, in your system, we will check the regularity and legality of some expenditure that you have maybe already incurred. And at last, we will ensure through these ex-ante controls that you are compliant with the information and publicity requirements. We will come back later on this point that is also very strategic. There are some priority checks that will be done directly when we will intervene on the spot. The bank account details, the VAT status, the legality of partnership agreement, the risk of fraud and bankruptcy, the location of investments, and as I said, the definition of procedures at your level. All these priority checks are available for all the partners. Even if, for example, the bank account details, of course, it will be mostly focused on the main urban authority. It's here that the funding arrived. So of course, this bank account details must be checked at the main urban authority. VAT status, we will check is if your VAT status is correct and relevant regarding your entity. So this kind of check, of priority check, will concern mainly the PPs, the partners, the local partners, because most of the cities, the MUA are not eligible on VAT. But for local partners, depending the nature of the legal nature of the entities, there can be this topic. So we will check this VAT status every time for the partners we will meet during this ex-ante controls. Legality of the partnership agreements, of course. It is one of the first documents that we will check and we will ask to you. So please do not hesitate to send to your first level controller. You can send already the partnership agreements you have signed through email. Do not hesitate to send to us already this document so that we can prepare and we can check already this kind of documents. Risk of fraud or bankruptcy. It means how the local partners but also the MUAs, yes, all the partners, are they involved in fraud or on the verge of bankruptcy? So bankruptcy is more maybe mainly for local partners because cities in Europe, generally speaking, can't go on bankrupt, but it can happen sometime. But of course, fraud concerns every partners, MUA and local partners. Location of investments. I go through very fast because we already talked about this. And procedures. As I said you just before, we will check at every level, here also, at the MUA and local partners that will be audited, if you defined a good financial management and control system, if you have defined good procedures regarding your public procurement policy, if you have defined good procedures, really defined, it means written. If you have written procedures that everybody understands, it means MUA and local partners regarding the in-kind contributions. And if you have procedures that explain to all the partners involved in the project what is the audit trail regarding all the budget lines and the expenditure that you will incur during the project. So audit trail means what is the documentation you need to keep with you and to give to the external auditor when there will be controls. So I talked before about the checklist that we can't give you beforehand, our intervention. Nevertheless, we decided, of course, to present and to show you some main areas after these check priorities, the main areas that the ex-ante controls will focus on. So there are basically two kind of areas. The first areas are regarding and are linked with internal control and risk assessment. Every area are declined. You will see when you will meet with us on the spot. They are declined by assertions, questions, and with points of controls. Your answers will be reported, verified, and assessed through our risk standards and documentation that you will give to us. So what are the areas that are linked with internal control and risk assessment? First, as an introduction, of course, we will check at the coordinator level, at the MUL level, how, globally speaking, the project is managed. So we will look after all the procedures, all the organization, all the process you defined to manage correctly, efficiently, and with economy the project. Then there is the monitoring of the project, and this it is linked to MUA, of course, but also to local partners. So how you manage daily the project, how you monitor all the aspects of the project. Monitoring can be the operations, the finance, the budget, the legal aspect, the human resources. So all the main process that enable you to carry out and to implement the process. Second areas, how you manage your assets. We know that in your project you will have, or you have already assets, fixed assets, so equipments, investments already done to manage your daily your project. So there are we would say regular assets, but you will have also new assets that will be created, that will be built during the project life of during the life cycle of your project. So some of you will make construction, some of you will buy equipments and so on. So all these assets have to be well managed, have to be secured, and have to be compliant with the accounting rules regarding depreciation, regarding value, and so on. We will come later on this aspect. Third area is the procurement process and procedures. I go fastly through it because we talked already and we will come back later. Fourth area, we will check at every level all aspects that is linked with cash and bank management. 5 area, all aspects linked with accounting and reporting. Area 6, the IT systems. So of course it is close and it can be very linked with the accounting area, because as we said you before, your reporting and accounting system must be in a computerized form. But you may have also other IT systems that we can check. 7 area, expenditure control. There is a part specific on this topic, so I go fastly. And last area, human resources management. So basically the project staff management. That was the first one dimension of ex-ante controls areas. The second one, more specifically, will be attached to the monitoring of the project. So it means we will, of course, check how you monitor activities and costs linked to these activities. Do you have a strategic plan regarding these monitoring activities? Do you have budgetary forecast and updates? It is important that, of course, you have a well-defined budget, but you all have it because of the application form. But it is important for us that we check that if you have changes, if you have modifications in your activities, in your costs because of new investments, because of lack of revenues, or because of new revenues, for example, generated by your project, it is important for us to check that you have updates on your budget. And always linked to monitoring activities and costs, we will look after the project performance indicators. Second aspect, in monitoring of project, we will look after the compliance with segregation of duties and functions. Within your project management, if you have well-defined functional logic organigrams of who do what and when regarding the project life cycle. So basically it means who is responsible for this task and so on. This segregation of duties and function is, of course, and it is very, very important for us, available for all the accounting process and payment process. So we will check that there is a good segregation of who define the need, who validates the invoice, and who pay. Normally, it shouldn't be the same person, of course, in order that there are not conflict and risk of fraud or lack of control. Another dimension regarding monitoring of project is monitoring your partner's costs. So it is important for us that we will have the same approach regarding this monitoring aspect, the same approach between what we will check at the MUA level, but also what is applied at the MUA level should be applied to your partners. So we will check how you monitor partners' costs. And if you have defined also as MUA, in collaboration with your partners, if you have defined a risk assessment system. Of course, if you want to monitor your partner's costs with them, not only MUA one part, local partners other part, but all together, if you want to be sure that you have a good monitoring of your partner's cost, we will check if you have a budget follow-up on your partner's costs and expenditures. And if we want to monitor efficiently all the partner's costs, we need to check your purchasing procedures. Last area, expenditure control. So do you have written down procedures that explain what are the main rules to be applied for the expenditure? What is the main documentation you need to keep with you to justify the eligibility of your expenditure? How you define your accounts rendition, and do you compare monthly or every 2 months or every 3 months? What is the period of comparison that you have in order to check that your budget today is still relevant and coherent with your prevision? So it is this comparison between prevision and effective budget. And it can be, of course, if you have well-defined this budget comparison process, it will help you to control your expenditure. Because if you realize that you are too far in the consumption of your budget, you will surely carry out more controls on the expenditure. If you are late in your budget implementation and in your expenditures, so you can maybe be faster when you will after doing this comparison, you can be faster in your expenditure. And every time, of course, when there are expenditures, they must be compliant with regulation and term of reference. So I go through it very fast because I think you know almost everything right now. We wish that it is clear, but very fast I go through the 4 main steps of ex-ante controls. It is an organization description of how we will carry out this ex-ante controls. So the planification phase requires from you availability, like from us, but we are available, just we wait your confirmation on the date that we propose you. One thing important, because I know that in these training sessions there are many local partners, maybe local partners that will not be audited because they were not sampled during these ex-ante controls. But what you should understand in this planification phase, we sample our proposition of dates only to the MUA, and the MUAs centralize and communicate to local partners that should be audited the dates that we propose. So we have a centralized relation between us and MUAs in order to planify and to organize efficiently our intervention on the spot. Second step, and it requires from you change. Change, it means these training sessions should help you to change, to empower yourself, to prepare yourself to our intervention through the definition and the design of good systems, management system, risk assessment system, and procedures. So we hope that this online training session and the question system that we built on can help you to change or to have the good directions and to prepare efficiently our interventions on the spot. So I go very fast on this training aspect because we already talked about it. Just yes, the session records will be at your disposal and are already at your disposal on YouTube and on the UIA channel, and the training document will be sent also to all the MUAs as fast as possible after the training, this today training session. Second step, on the spot. So we will go on the spot, and I will try to be clear for the person or the manager that maybe didn't understand well how we will intervene on the spot. So as we said, we have not a schedule already defined, and we will not give you a very predefined schedule of our interventions. But basically, every time there is a MUA that will be audited in the 17 cities, so this MUA at his locations, we expect and we want to organize a 2 hours opening meeting. It will be very often in the morning, the first day of our intervention. So the first meeting will be 2 hours long. And in this meeting, we expect, of course, the MUA managers, but also all the partners managers, even if they are not audited, even if they have not these ex-ante controls. So please come to this opening meeting. It will be the occasion for us, like for you, to maybe to ask questions and to introduce ourselves. And for us, it is important so that we can identify all the project managers, and we can, of course, answer your questions. After this opening meeting, we will stay so only with the MUA managers during 1.5 days to carry out controls on MUA operations. So here we don't expect the presence of local partners. After these 2 first days, depending the projects, when there are some local partners that were sampled for these ex-ante controls, we will go to the project partners, local partners that have been sampled. So, and every time, of course, we are flexible sometimes, but normally we will spend 1 day and 1 day, a full day, dedicated to the local partners operations. So here we expect the presence, of course, of the main managers of the local partner. At last, the last step, deliverables. Yes, there is a little mistake, sorry. It is a process of reports and payment. So reports will contain our findings, and we will send them directly to the UIA, Permanent Secretariat, with our checklists. In this report, there will be opinion. So there are many auditors' opinion that can be done. We hope for you that you will not have adverse or disclaimer, but but even if so, very fast. Adverse opinion means that for us as an auditor, we think you didn't meet with the minimum request to validate the payment. But again, we will not take this decision. It is a UIA initiative that takes the decision. If you have disclaimer opinion, it means that we should approve the payment, but we identify some weaknesses or risk that should be mitigated very fast by you. So we will of course give you directions to mitigate this risk. And qualified opinion means that we approve. We think that you have all you meet all the requirements to for this ex-ante controls. Unqualified, it will not happen. We think it means we can't qualify our opinion because of I don't know what. Maybe because we couldn't meet you, because but we think that it is not possible. We will always meet you. We will always have the possibility to carry out this ex-ante control. So usually unqualified opinion shouldn't be will not be given. Yes. So the consequence on advance payment, as I said, you approval or not approval. Okay, thank you very much for your attention in this first part. It's already 1 hour and a half, almost. So if you have questions regarding this part, do not hesitate to write down in the Q&A space you have on the WebEx platform. If you have questions, you can also send them, if you prefer, to the email address we sent you with the training session convocation. So if you send to the email address, we can answer to you later. If you send now, we will try to answer directly, but we can't give you this assurance. We will try, but depending the question, sometimes there are little technical, so we need little time to think and to answer efficiently to your question. But please, if you have questions regarding the part 1, do not hesitate to formulate them. Now it's time to my friend Charles to talk. Good luck to him, and thank you again for your attention for the first part. Let's go to the second part.
Thank you very much, François. In this second part, we will just focus of which is not exactly relevant to the ex-ante control, because it will be the eligibility of expenditures, but it is very important just to exactly settle right now what we are going to ask you during the 2 other controls, FLC, which will be expenditures and administrative controls, so that you could already be prepared just to collect, to do every kind of process that will be needed just in order just to be fully reimbursed by the UIA, and so then you will be just noticed of every kind of mandatory steps and every kind of procedures that we will require for you just to set up for everything to be done properly and to be granted all the funds you rightly are just in right just to expect. So yes, thank you. So very quickly, of course, everything that we are going they're going to go through this first page has been already just told by François. of course, we will just like be very vigilant that you have like a sound financial management, that everything is compliant with all the procedures, like all the regulation, EU or UIA, national or EU regulations, with strictest rules that will prevail for like this compliance. And concerning the expenditures, we will be like of like a particular vigilance to double financing. Double financing means like if some expenditures could have been like financed like with another grant, with other subsidy or any other kind of like means of financing. So in fact, we will not be very happy to finance an expenditure twice. Every kind of like expenses that could have been like invoiced like between partners, everything that concern like revenues that could be like generated by your project activity, everything regarding like public procurement procedures, and in-kind contributions. So, but we will go like in depth like regarding all those like points like further on. There is one other thing I want like to emphasize just before like to continue. The two FLCs, the two other FLCs, just like controls that will be like carried on like later on, like at 70% of expenditures and like at the end of the project. Will be of two kinds, in fact. Of course, there is like the expenditure, so which is in fact the financing stuff, like and every cost and so what is basically numbers, figures, okay? So that is a big part. But it's not the only part, but because we have like to observe also the relationship and the correlation like between like expenditures and what you've done with the project, okay? So in fact, if you just like have spent a lot, like every like 5 million or like because like it's up to 5 million of your grant, it's okay, but it's not enough. Even if it's like properly just like properly done, just like compliant with everything, and audit trail is nice and whatever. In fact, you have like to, of course, like spend money properly, but in fact, you have like to also do what you're expected to do within the frame of your project. Of course, you made a submission to carry on the project, and you have to do your best, of course, just like for this project, like to be a success. Okay, of course, it could be like there could be like some flaws and failures and so on, but you have like to do your best to carry on this project properly. That will be like also look after, and also you have like to be very well aware that we will be like very vigilant about like this publicity aspect. So you have like to be sure that like from the beginning like to the end, the maximum of publicity will be made, and that in particular just like the financing, the EU financing is the emphasis of the EU financing is properly made. Okay. So we can go a little bit like in depth, and we will go through like all like budget lines and see what is related like for like to a budget line or not, and how you have to report like every cost and expenditures. So this is a very like important just like budget lines that I think like all of you do have like already just like in your budget. So the staff costs, So staff costs are very important because it could be like a little bit tricky, and also it's very important because it will determine also overhead cost. We will go like through that point like later on. So in fact, staff cost is every kind of like staff expenditures like of staff which are very like directly related like to the operations, like the operativeness of the project. Okay, so every staff cost that will be like reported in this budget line is the staff. It's not that the staff of which like belongs to overhead. We will go like go to that point like a little bit further. So it's really the person which involved directly into the project, and those people could be like affected like 100% of the time, or it could be like affected like part-time, or they could be like affected just like 100% of the time for like a small period, and then maybe like a little bit less for another period of the project, like depending of the schedule, in fact, of your project. So every kind of like situation can be imagined. Okay. So you have like to report exactly the actual cost that you paid for like this staff. This must be like calculated like individually, like per staff member. One very important aspect is like the assigned like staff must just like have like written assignments from the employer. So each employer, just like MUA or partners. Okay. So it's written there, no timesheets needed. In fact, we will just like assess the eligibility of course regarding just like the affected like weight, so affected time of like every employer, regarding like the, let's say, the quality of outputs, like this employee just like has been pursuing. So in fact, first of all, it will be like the output. So output could be like anything, could be like written stuff or any kind of proofs you can imagine, like to assess the quality of the work that has been done. And then, in fact, we will just like judge like this output, like regarding just like the time, the affected time of this person. Like if it's like 100% time, we will just like expect like a larger amount of work that if like it is like, let's say like 50% or maybe less. Okay. And so yesterday people just like ask us, do we need like timesheets? The answer will be the following. In fact, at this point we will do not need like timesheets because it's very, it's not very relevant. But we could maybe just like ask you timesheets if there is any kind of like arguments. If we are not agree on the, for instance, of the affected weight of this like staff people, okay? If we judge that in fact, let's say 100% time like people, the output like made like for like 100% time people is not enough regarding like the affectation. And we will just like say maybe this stuff is like only 80% or 70% or 50%. Maybe you could just like say, just like provide us just like timesheet in order like just to say, okay, but these people just like have like work like 100% of time, and that's a proof of it. Okay, so maybe like in the second time, if we are in a kind of like disagreement, like regarding like the weight consistency, you can just like provide like extra piece of documents, and that could be like timesheets. But on the first hand, we will not ask you timesheets, okay? What is ineligible? Ineligible cost for like this particular budget line is like unpaid voluntary work, of course. Voluntary payments, that is obviously like almost the same. Not officially assigned employees, okay? So it's related like to this written assignments. Everything that is everything that is like related like to dividends or overheads, okay? Regarding like the audit trail, what we will ask you is first of all the validation of the global yearly amount, that is salary or bills, validation of the total hours days worked per year according to the working contract and local regulation, the written assignments with a percentage of time dedicated to the project for like each staff member, proofs of payments, explanation of the work that has been carried out, the consistency with the project and supporting papers, and of course like the coverage by the initial or updated budget, which means in fact this like a staff cost must be like within the agreed like initial or updated budget, okay? So be sure that you update your budget if the cost like goes up and that this updated budget is like properly like validated by the UIA. So very quickly could be the risk like of course absence of working contracts, lack of precision on task expected, and uncovered staff's cost, of course. Once again, if you have like any kind of like questions, like please like ask them like right now or later. So office and administration, that is a very just like easy budget line, because in fact this overhead or office and administration costs in fact are determined by the staff cost. So for everyone it's like very important, just like you, we are like very sun and clear about like staff cost, because it will just like determine your overhead and office and administration costs, okay? So what is office and administration? In fact, it's just like every operating and administrative expenses of MUA and partners. Okay, could be like people. Okay, could be like overhead staff cost, or just like staff cost like overhead expenditures. Could be like office rents, utilities, office supplies, general accounting, anything, IT, bank charges, anything. Okay, that is like necessary, just like to the project, but it's not like a direct cost of the project. Okay, for instance, we say like office rent. Okay, if you just, or like rents, if you have like to rent like a very special like facility just in order just like to carry on the project, it's not overhead, it's direct cost. So it's very different. Okay, so if you have like any questions like regarding like the qualification of like a specific cost regarding like your project, just like ask us like now, or maybe like when we will be like on spot, and we will try like to answer you like very clearly if it's like office administration or direct cost. Okay. So what is very important is that like if no staff costs are reported, so you can't charge any overhead cost. So sorry for you if you don't have any direct like staff reported, you cannot charge any like overhead cost. Okay. So the risks are mainly just like for you because you will not like being reimbursed. If so, you have like to present direct cost like in the specific budget lines. So if it's not, it will not like being reimbursed. Of course, the global amounts have to match like the financial statement lines. Okay. So in fact, that means that we can't, within the 50% of the staff cost, we cannot like reimburse you just like much that you have like a declare in your just like a like proper account system. Exactly, François. The overheads are not consistent with the objectives of the project. There is a confusion between direct and indirect overheads, so that's okay. And uncovered office administration costs, but of course it will be like the same for like all budget lines. So travel and accommodation. All right, so travel and accommodation, it's the travel and accommodation expenditures that are directly related to your project. So it's a travel and accommodation, for instance, of the staff that is listed like on the first budget line, like staff costs. So it's not the travel and accommodation of the staff that could be like connected with like overhead expenditures. So that include like everything, every aspect of like travel and expedition. So every kind of like travel costs, like travel train tickets and plane tickets, travel and car insurances, fuel, car mileage and everything, meals, accommodation, of course, visa if needed, daily allowances. Okay, the cost should be in line with the partner's T&A policy rules, if you have any. And in any case, in fact, the choice of like the means of travels must be laid by like the effectiveness, cost efficiency, and eco-friendliness aspects. I think that is very clear. This is very clear for like everyone. Okay, that means, of course, that public transportation must have like your priority of choices over private or company cars and taxis. You can like within like this budget line, you can, of course, it's like the T&A of like listed just like a staff, but it could be also just like every kind of like expenditures that can like could be like generated by like invitations by MUA, for instance, or other partners, or any kind of like other initiatives that can be like directly or indirectly like related to your project. Okay, so that could be even like events that you can throw in order just like to maximize just like the visibility of your project, or like any kind of like events that could be like related like to the capitalization of your project. So this kind of thing is of course eligible. But if you have like any kind of like questions, or if you're not sure about this eligibility, you have like to ask first the UIA approval in order to be sure that the expenditures will not be like rejected like during like FLC control. So if it's not like within the strict like a frame of your project, or if you're not sure if it's like indirectly like related, please ask beforehand just like a UIA for like an opinion, okay? So you will be sure that you will be like reimbursed at the end. For instance, if you have like to go like outside the UU to attend a meeting, so it's a point of vigilance. So you have like to ask beforehand the UIA. Cancellation, yeah. Be careful because all the cancellation costs, unused tickets are ineligible. Okay. And TNA costs of like external experts or service providers are not eligible within this budget line. They are eligible, but only within like the proper budget line of like services and external experts. So we will need like to collect every documentation regarding like every kind of travel. Be sure that everything just like is correctly like is connected with the agenda of any kind of like events. So be sure like not to go like for like a meeting like 1 week before and or 1 week later. The dates must be like respected in order just like to be reimbursed. Please just like collect every kind of like every kind of proof of participation of you, your colleagues, or any kind of like people that couldn't be like invited like to any events you will show up. So yes, to go like very quickly about the risk, be careful about like every kind of like expenditures that could be like reported by person or people that are not reported staff. I mean, like reported like in the labor cost section, staff costs. Be careful about like the days of the travels that are not like reported in the supporting planning tools. Absence of validation of invoices, car travels that could be like not enough like documented, or travel that has not like be considered like as consistent with the objectives of the project. And of course, like uncover like travels and accommodation costs. So that's very important. Just like you update your budget like on a monthly basis, let's say. So you will not have any surprises. So external expertise and services. That's very simple stuff. It's like all the expenses that are like related like to professional services and expertise, just like you will need within the scope of your project. That could be like studies, surveys, training, I don't know, lawyer fees, engineer's fees, whatever. Every kind of like skills or services you will need, and that you have not like in-house. Okay. So of course you have like to be very careful with this kind of expenditures, because it's always implies that you will have like a public procurement process or any procurement process your company, your entity is must comply with, because in fact it's an external purchase like all the time. So first of all, this need the need of this like special skills or special expertise like must be like proven and documented. Okay, must be like strictly like related like to the pursuing of your project, and we will be like very vigilant of like any kind of like existence of like conflict of interest. So the purchase, the expertise must be carried out like something like that is like external like to your entity, as a MUA or a partner, and that's not like connected like to your entity or to any physical person within your entity, like in a way or another. Okay. There must be like a written contract, of course, between your entity and this company or like people. Of course, it must be like everything must be compliant with Pokemon rules, but we've seen that. The contracts between partners are ineligible. And of course, like every kind of course, like related like to UIA experts and auditors, is not like relevant like in this budget line. It's covered by like UIA, so it's nothing of your scope. Well, yeah, of course, and you have to be sure like to document all the proofs of outputs of the services that has been like delivered, and of course like proof of payments. I think it's okay. Okay, equipment. Equipment is everything you purchase, rent, or lease, like in order like to carry on the project. Okay, so it could be like office equipment, furniture, everything basically, machines, instruments, tools, devices, whatever. In fact, the main thing to understand is like the difference between like equipment and overhead. Okay, equipment is like something like is you need like specifically like to carry on like this project, and overhead is like everything else basically. So, for instance, like paper and staples and must be like overhead, and maybe like a specific computer or specific machine you will need like to buy will be like equipment. So you must like ask yourself, is this stuff I need like to buy is like strictly like necessary for this project implementation? Okay. So that's equipment. This budget line also like includes just like the cost of equipment that is already in your possession. Okay. So if you just like already have like any kind of computer, any kind of tools, you can like just like report like this in this budget line. So the rules, so distinction to be made. For instance, like the equipment like necessary for the project implementation, you have like to report it like on a pro rata depreciation value basis. Okay, so of course, if the equipment like is subject to this pro rata depreciation. So this depreciation like value and rules really depends of your national accounting like regulations. So we can like give you like any kind of like information about that, because it really depends of your country accounting like regulations, accounting rules. And the rule for like equipment that could be like considered just like as part of like a project investment. There is no like pro rata depreciation value rules. It's like a full purchase price that could be like eligible. If you have like any kind of question, because it could be like a bit tricky. If you have like any kind of specific question, please ask us in the Q&A right now or maybe later on. by email or when we be like on spot, and we try just like to figure out like if this like expenditures could be like considered just like as an equipment, could be like considered like as overhead, or should like qualify like for water depreciation or not. And of course, every kind of like purchase you will be subject to made must be like compliant with like your local UU entity procurement rules. Okay. If you want like to buy like some kind of like second-hand equipment, it's eligible, no problem at all. But be careful that the thing, the stuff you are going like to buy has not been like originally acquired by with the use of like EU funds, because otherwise it will be like a double funding object, and it will not be like eligible. And in fact, it's exactly the same if you like report just like tools or office equipment, for instance, or laboratory equipment that you have like already like in possession, but has been like financed like formally by EU funds, any kind of like EU funds. And equipment purchased like rented or leased from another partner are not eligible. So yeah, as for the audit trails, it's the same that as before. Any kind of like purchase just like must be like documented, and you must have like proof of payments. It will be like covered by like the initial of an updated budget, and it must be like in any kind like in any way like related, like strictly like necessary and connected to the project, and must be like cost effective, of course. So you will not like buy the very, you will not like suppose like to buy the very fancy like a kind of like equipment. Because of course there's no need just like to engage like some extra cost if it's not needed. Okay. So within this budget line, infrastructures and construction works. So some of the projects are like concerned by this budget line, but like not like all the projects, because in this budget line should be reported only like investments in infrastructure that do not fall into the scope of the other budget line, like specifically just like the equipment like budget line. So it's like everything like related like to the purchase of provision of land or real estate, site preparation, delivery, handling, installation, renovation. Okay. So it's basically like a huge investment, just like land or real estate, or big infrastructure, like kind of like expenditures. So of course, this kind of like expenditures, because it's like usually like very costly, very expensive, must be like crucial, just like maybe like in the core of your like project, okay, and very like necessary to the achievement of your project. So usually this kind of like expenditures has already like been approved, like because as it is like it is usually like the core of your project, it already has been like submitted like in your submission form. So it has already been like approved by UIA as a crucial just like expenditure for the achievement of the project. Okay. it is like a full cost eligible based. So there will be like no depreciation that will be like applied for this kind of like expenditures. So what will be like the points of vigilance regarding like this budget line? Of course, it must be like compliant with procurement rules regarding like this specific kind of like expenditures. The purchase must be of a maximum of 10% of the total project budget. And we will be like very vigilant like regarding like the ownership and durability principles. Okay, so who is owning just like this infrastructures, just like now and after? So yes, the risk will be like especially like regarding like the absence of ownership and control clause. If the investment is not included like in the basic financial budget, if eventually depreciation of course is not properly calculated, of course if there is like no everything that could be like related like to the revenues that could be like generated by this kind of like infrastructure, because usually this kind of like infrastructure could just like generate like revenues, like maybe not like within the time frame of your project within the 3 years, but maybe like later within the 5 years, just like period like after the end of the project. So we will be like very vigilant with that. So it's listed like in the risk. So that leads us like to the revenues. Revenues could be like already have been listed in the initial or forecasted like budget. You have like submitted like to the to the UIA. But it could be also just like some kind of like revenues that could be like generated like meanwhile. So during your 3 years or after, even after, just like the end of your project, like within the 5 years, just like a period of like scrutiny. We have like to respect. So in fact, like revenues is any kind of like cash inflows that your entity as MUA or partner can receive from any kind of like people or entities. Okay, so that could be like I don't know, small participation to any kind of like event. That could be like any kind of like new grants that could be like granted to your entity within the scope of this of your project. That could be basically anything, any extra money that you will receive. Okay, so you have to report these revenues, okay, when they will occur, just like in your FLC. And these revenues will come into like deductions of the global amount of like of money that will be like reimbursed to your entity. All right. So I think yes, that's everything like concerning this revenue. If you have like any kind of like questions, concerning like this revenues, be welcome just like to ask your questions, but I think it's very clear. Revenues is like the money that is like generated like by your project, like directly or indirectly within the 3 years period of implementation or within the 5 years of like scrutiny. In fact, just like the 5-year period, just like after the end of the project. So that's all for like the budget lines. Now, just like very like quick focus of the public procurements. So, basic rules of public procurements or like or procurement policy, because all your entities maybe do not like fall into the public procurement rules, depending of the nature of like your entity and depending of your like national regulations. But let's say these like rules will apply to every entity that are part of the project as a MUA or partners whatsoever. So the fundamental rules is transparency, fair competition, efficient use of public funds. That's very important. So you must like assure that any kind of like procurements will comply to this like cardinal rules in any kind. Okay. You have like to follow, of course, like regarding like this like cardinal rules, the European National Institutional and UIA rules, and apply the strictest rule principle. I think that's very clear for you right now because we have like repeated that a lot. The rules are applicable to any partner fulfilling the definitions of like contracting authority. Okay, but you already know if you fall into this like this rule or not. If you have like any kind of like derogation, like ask us. But in fact, in any way, you have like to be sure that you have made like an adequate market research for contracts that have been priced above like €5,000, excluded like VAT. Of course, if your entity is not is like subject like to VAT. If not, of course, it's like it's €5,000, just like VAT included. So that means that like you have like to be sure and to be able like to give the proof that you have like consult at least like three offers, 3 companies, different companies, and that you've done like extensive like researches. If it's not possible, sometimes it's not possible because we have like a very remote area and just like there is only one like company just like that could like of course like answer to your particular need. Sometimes you have like very specific need, but I don't know of any case, but maybe why not. So, but you have like to be you have like to give us some proof that for this like very particular need in your particular just like area, just like this, there is only one company that could like answer properly to the need. Okay, and in any case, even if it's like the case, we have like to be sure that the price that has been paid is like within just like the acceptable, like normally just like a upstairs price for like a similar kind of like service like elsewhere, let's say like in the country, for instance. You have like to document, of course, everything from the beginning like to the procurement process like to the end. Okay, so the beginning like will be like for instance like expression of needs. and like to the end is just like to like the bill, for instance, or and like every kind of like outputs if there is if for like a service like or experts like survey. In-house contracting are allowed, of course, so it's kind of like particular kind of like contract, and you will not need to obey like this like a strict like public procurement rules. It's very, it depends really of a lot of things. So if you just like want like to report any just like in-house contract, please ask us before, so that we can just like evaluate and the risk of like requalifying of like this in-house contract in like in a normal contract. Because if you do just like observe like in-house contracting rules, and then like this contract will be requalified like later on as a normal one, then the costs will be like for sure like rejected, because you probably will not like document this in-house contract properly, because of course it's an in-house contract and not like a normal contract. So please, if you are willing just like to contract this kind of like in-house contract, please like report and ask us before, or ask like UIA, and we will like give you like an opinion like beforehand, so that will be like better for like for you, and it will be like more secure for you. If there is, if during like the FLC control, we have like observation, or if like the procurement process is not enough documented, or not follow it like properly, there will be like financial corrections that could be applied to this specific cost, and it could like be like of anything between like 5 and 100% of like financial corrections to this specific expenditure. So maybe you can just like will be okay with 5%, but 100% is a very big financial risk. You will you do not really want just like to take. So please be sure that the public procurement rules, or procurement rules, if not public, are strictly followed. I think it's clear for everyone. So in-kind expenditures and contributions. So if you want like to report like in-kind like expenditures and contributions, it's possible, but it's always a little bit tricky. So in fact, what is in-kind contributions? In fact, in-kind contributions is all contributions or expenditures that is cashless. So you're not paying for, really. So someone is just like giving you away in order just like to attain just like your objective, or like implement your project. So usually it's like public entities, public bodies that will like give you the use of any kind of like facility, office space, or just like allow you to do something that usually you have to pay for, or maybe just like so it could be like objects, could be like I don't know, equipments that we can use for free. It could be time of people that are paid by like someone else, for instance, anything like that. And of course, you can report this kind of like in-kind contributions and expenditures, but you have like to be very vigilant and will be like very vigilant because you have like to observe just like strict rules, just specific conditions. So the public support paid to the project, which includes like in-kind contributions, those you have to be sure that this kind of like public support does not exceed the total eligible expenditures. Okay, excluding of course in-kind contributions at the end of the project. Usually it's not the case, but that's one of the conditions. The value of the contribution must be like in line with the current open market value. This value must be like certified by an independent qualified expert or duly authorized and independent like official body. These contributions must be like in order like to be eligible, like not being like previously paid for or co-financed by EU funds. An in-kind contribution under staff cost budget line is not eligible. Like for instance, like voluntary work, okay? But only like voluntary work. If the staff cost is in kind but paid by another people, you can. I don't know if you understand like the slight difference. So in-kind contributions are always like a contribution because in fact it's something you're not paying for, really, but some other people, some other entity are paying for, obviously. So it's also just like an expenditure. So you have like to balance, in fact, the contribution by an expenditure. Okay, so we have to be able just like to see that within the audit trail. All right, so the cost must be like reported like within like the other budget lines. So it could be like external expertise, like equipment, infrastructure, whatsoever. Okay. So you have to document every kind of like application form if it's a grant, for instance. If it's like yes, kind of like if you do need like to apply just like for this kind of like in-kind contributions, work plans, any kind of like documents you can like provide us just like in order just like to justify this in-kind contributions like and like the value of it. So it's usually like a written agreement. Of course, the in-kind contributions valuation must be like very like strictly connected and like in relation with the current open market value. So, of course, like we will just like look after just like the value of like any kind of like service that could have the cost of like service that you can find, yes, that you will find like on an open market. Like open market is like a private market. Well, that leads like to the estimation of like in-kind contribution, but that's basically the same. Okay, I think we can go on. We don't have any like Q&A this time. So very quickly, non-exhaustive list of like ineligible expenditures. So of course the VAT is not ineligible if your entity is not like born like to VAT. So it's usually the case for like public or assimilated public bodies. Interest on debt, exchange like weight losses, but I don't think within like the frame of the projects you will have like any kind of like exchange rate losses, but why not? Could occur like for the like non-euro, just like European countries. National banking charges, fines, financial penalties and expenditures, unpaid voluntary work, any cost incurred like before the project start dates or after the project end dates. Okay. Communication materials that are not in line with UIA rules or communications, gifts. There are some exceptions, but usually gifts are not eligible. Tips, fees between partners of the same projects for services, supplies, and work carried out within the project, and costs related like to the contracting of employees of the partners' organizations as external experts, like freelancer, for instance. So that are the most obvious like ineligible expenditures, but there are like of course others. So if you have like any doubts like concerning like one expenditures, please ask us beforehand. So just like a quick look at like the UIA major expectations. So there is like a general like a framework of like a project that has been like settled just like by UIA within the terms of like reference, and as like a MUA or as a partner, you are expect just like to follow this basic and main like government projects rules, in fact. If there is any modifications or derogations that you want like to bring to these general principles, it could be possible, but you have like to submit them as soon as possible to the UIA in order for them like to approve these modifications. Otherwise, it could like imply that like your whole project expenditures could be like rejected. So that's very important, right? So it could be like, for instance, like a switch regarding like the project management team, a switch of like legal responsibility, which usually like means like there is a switch of like the financial responsibility. Everything that is like relevant concerning like the global governance of the project. So that is like a very core and strong balancing. All right. So if anything occurs like within the lifespan of the project, please report it like as soon as possible to the UIA in order for them just like to give you like clearance of that, or maybe to unclear it, and but you will be sure that then like this major like changement modification is or not possible. So of course, compliance with regulations on procurement and contracts, very important. We've seen that before. Compliance with publicity and communication about like the UU fund of this project. This consistency of depreciation rules are applied, of course, but that is like all those points are very like major expectations. But what is UIA also expect of you like within the project is that you carry on your project as you have submitted it like in your submission, and that in fact you are in line from like the beginning like to the end, just like with your global objectives. Of course, you can slightly just adjust your project like on the edge, because of new events, new local regulations and whatsoever. But you have to stick to your global overview, global views on the project and objectives. That's very important. And all your projects are kind of innovative, because that is in fact what was expected, just for you, just to be. So it's very innovative projects and new projects. So you will have to do everything what is of your means, just to do your best, to fulfill your objective. So it's not a guarantee of success, but it's a guarantee for UIA, just that you have carried everything possible, just to fulfill your objective. I don't know if it's clear. And you have to be able just to also share your experience and share with others, with all the other projects holder, for now and the future, and to be able just to capitalize on your experience on this particular project, because I think it's very important. So it's one of the, I think, UIA expectations regarding your project. So thank you very much.
Thank you all.
François will conclude.
Yes, I propose I conclude. So thank you, Charles, for this detailed explanation on the principles of eligibility of expenditures and the main expectations or warnings from UIA. So we are arriving at the end of the training session number 2. Please, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to send us either right now on the WebEx platform, or as you can see, there is a dedicated email address, UIA FLC Training FAQ. So please, you can send also directly to this email address, and we will try to answer you as fast as possible. Like I said you in the introduction, there is a first record already at your disposal on YouTube, the first training, and we think if there was no problem recording this session, that this session will be also put on YouTube on the UIA channel. So we hope that there was no problem for you to send us questions, because we didn't receive questions through through the WebEx platform. So if there was any problem, you can always send your question to the email address you have on this page. Charles, if you want to add something.
No, so thank you very much. And of course, ask the question beforehand if it's a kind of complex questions, because we have to review this kind of questions. And for other kind of questions, of course, we will just try to answer just on the spot.
Yeah. So thank you all. Thank you for your participation, and see you on the spot at the opening meeting. Bye.
Bye-bye.